So at this point you have your page set up, and it's going to just be a plain blank slide. You can, if you might have title information here, you can just delete that. And then at this point, it's really up to you what you want your Google Classroom header to look like. So there's a lot of free motivational posters, and I'll attach a link for that, or you can have just like a pretty pattern. This one's just a color by going to backgrounds, and then here with the colors, so it can be a plain color or it can be a gradient. And then what I've seen some people do is just throw in a Bitmoji. So maybe something for like the beginning of the year could be this welcome picture right here. And something that I kind of like about Bitmoji extension is that it seems like they're just putting, like if you type in a word that you want it to say, such as welcome, they'll start just attaching it to other Bitmojis, which may or may not be relevant. But that could be cute as well if you want to show how excited you are for the kiddos to come back. Another way that you can do it, and the way that I have it on mine, is to set up a room. So that would be, once again, going to either background and choosing an image. You can search Google here, Google image search, and the first thing you could do is set up like floor and wall background, something like that. But keep in mind with floor and wall background such as this is it's going to be pretty stretched out when we look at it. So it might not be exactly what you want. Actually, for that picture, it stretched out and it fit pretty nicely. But I've seen some, especially with like a brick wall, look a little funky. So maybe if I were to do this one, it might not be, yeah, this picture got a little bit distorted. So some of the images are going to be better than others. If you really want a smaller image, all I would recommend doing is to just repeat it. It wouldn't really look great for this forced perspective, but I'm going to open up a blank slide. If you really want a smaller picture and you want more autonomy over what your wall and floor should look like, once again, we're gonna search here, insert image, and search the web. I was actually already searching floors earlier, as you can see. Maybe you want a white brick wall. What I would recommend is clicking and dragging in. You can also double click it. You can just resize it to make it match the background. So I like to hold shift and resize using the corners. It maintains the ratio of the image. Definitely 100% never just drag it by the sides because it will be once again distorted and you won't like it. So here we go. It's a little bit too short. I'm gonna move it and I'm gonna resize it again. And if it comes off the background a little bit, it doesn't really matter because when I save it as a JPEG, it will adjust. Okay, so since it's just a plain brick wall, you could drag it, and then once you cover everything, if you are adding like a couch and a whiteboard and a plant, whatever you're gonna add, it might not really matter if it's distorted a little bit, or what we can do is just copy and paste. And then I'm gonna match it up as best I can. There's a little white line because it is a separate picture, so I'm selecting it and arrowing over to make it go a teeny bit way to the left. And you can, if you look really, really closely, you can see that the lines don't match up 100%. So you can kind of mess with it a little bit. I moved it up, moved it down, and I think it looks a little bit better. You can still kind of see it if you're really staring at it, but when it gets compressed to fit a JPEG or a PNG for your background, it's not really going to be noticeable. And then the next thing you would do would be to look for a floor. And as I'm adding anything to this slide, I'm going to be looking for, like for now, I'm looking for a wood floor, but sometimes often I will look for transparent picture. And that way, when I click and drag, it doesn't interfere. So it looks like it's gonna have a white box, but it actually doesn't. And that way you can make your room as big or as small as makes sense for everything else you're gonna put here. And that would be the same thing for if you wanna add in a couch or if you're going to add in a plant. And then you can repurpose it. All right, so you'll see that I've gone back to this slide because I decided this would be the best background for me. And I'm looking up a transparent couch because I've decided my Bitmoji should be sitting on the couch. And once again, I'm doing transparent because when I move this onto my classroom, I don't want there to be this whole white space behind it. I want it to fit into my classroom. All right, but I don't really want it to be a brown couch. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, or if you're on a Mac, control click, and I'm going to go down here to format options, this little paintbrush. From here, there's a lot of things that you can do with it. You can change the size, you can flip it, which I think is a really great idea because what I usually end up doing is something along this lines, and then I have to constantly reshape it and rework it. But I'm gonna undo what I just did. If you just flip it horizontally, the sizing won't get messed up. So you won't have to spend as long struggling over that. And so I said I wanted to make it a different color. So if you go down here, you can go to recolor, and I've decided that I want a blue couch. So my couch will now be blue, which I actually like way more. Okay, so the next thing that I can do if I want my Bitmoji to be sitting on the couch is go to the Bitmoji extension, and I'm going to type in sitting. And there I am, just sitting on nothing. So I'm gonna click myself, drag me down. That sentence sounds very odd. All right, I'm gonna click and drag, and there I am sitting. And it's just an easy way for me to look like I'm interacting. And once again, I can change the size of my Bitmoji with the corner. We don't want to use the sides because quarantine's not been great, but I don't want to look like that. Okay, now I would love to have a whiteboard so I can properly greet my students. Another thing that you can do, she downloaded this earlier, this is from my college, so if you want to represent for your college, you can add posters to the wall. You can add a frame around that if you want to. Maybe I'll make it this color and a little bit thicker. So it's framed and it's there. You can also add in, I brought up this website earlier. It's called Echo Lit, and it has a lot of school-related things. So there's math. I saw a few science posters. There's ELA stuff. And what I can just do is I'm just going to copy paste, copy image, and paste it. So I can have a little motivational sign as well. I don't love that it has this little space here. So what I'm gonna do is there's a couple of ways we can fix this. When we click on it, this crop tool comes up here. I love my shortcuts, so I'll just double click it and then the cropping feature will show up and I'll drag. All right, crop the other side too. Cool beans. Okay. So the next thing that I said I wanted to do is I wanted to have a whiteboard. I'm actually going to get rid of this for right now. So while I figure out what sizing I want for my whiteboard. Image, search the web. And once again, still with the transparent background because it's a little bit less work for you. You can also stick to a regular chalkboard if you're feeling nostalgic. This could be cute. I wonder if that's transparent. It is. Great. And then you can always add your text boxes and come up with a little message. And I like to make it look like handwriting, so I use permanent marker quite a bit if I'm doing something like this. But it's definitely important to make sure that whatever font you do choose, it's something that is a little bit, is just legible for kids, because I know some students get confused with like the script fonts or something like that. And I personally hate papyrus, but that's a personal opinion. All right. Great. I want that to be a little bit down. I can move it down. There we go. One last thing I just wanted to name is I saw this example when I was looking at other people's Google Classroom headers, and I think this is really cute, and it would probably stop you from having to say, go to the classwork tab 30 times an hour. But one thing I don't love about it is if you look at Google Classroom on your phone, the classwork tab will be at the bottom. If you look at it on the computer, this makes sense. So if you're doing something like this, just be mindful of what device your students are using primarily, because this could end up leading to more confusion instead of less.